Hello, everybody. Welcome to Living Abroad and Loving It. My name is Linda Wilson, and I am currently living in Uruguay, or however you say it. And today I would like to cover something that was a real issue for us. In fact, first I'm going to tell you a story, okay? And it's exactly about what I'm going to share with you today. We were living in Uruguay and we decided to go move to Mexico to be closer to our children. Well, we got there, and it happens, we couldn't really afford to fly across the United States because our children literally live from Florida all the way over to Washington State. And there are two others that live in between, in Michigan and Colorado. So they couldn't afford, they all have children and families and activities they're doing. So we decided after a couple of years we would come back to Uruguay to live because we like it here too. So we got all set to go, and COVID arrived. So we stayed another 2 years in Mexico, and towards the end of our stay there, which we had reasons why we needed to come back to Uruguay. For one thing, we never shipped any of our stuff up to Mexico because we weren't sure if we were going to stay there or not. So we started calling different real estate agencies in Uruguay, and had some appointments set up to look at a house because we were heading back to Uruguay in October. Yeah. Well, December begins summer here, and it is a terrific time for temporary rentals, vacation rentals. But there were several places that we found in October, and we set up with the realtors to look at these places when we got here. There were only like three or four, but they were good ones for us and places where we really thought we'd like to live. Oh, everything was fine. Then we made a reservation with an Airbnb for a really good price that we could afford because still it was not in the high season yet. So we had that all planned. Well, we ended up we had a pretty rough time getting back to Uruguay because of some mix-ups with our pet needing this and that and the other thing, and just having to rush around too much. And so finally, we got to the Airbnb, and we went to call the different places that we had set up to look at houses. And they had rented them all. And I said, I thought we made an arrangement to look at these with you. Yes, but somebody came along and they wanted it right away, and they were here and you weren't here yet, and so we rented it. And every single one of the five houses that we had chosen to look at, they had rented out from under us. So here we were sitting in an Airbnb, and there was really nothing we could find that was available. I mean, I'm telling you, I personally was in full panic mode because you can only stay in an Airbnb. You can only afford to stay in an Airbnb for so long. But we had a really good deal, and so we weren't too nervous. We had the whole month of November paid for, but it got to be the third week of November, and nothing. And then the fourth week of November, and nothing. And so we got a hold of the landlady of the Airbnb, and we said, we have a problem. We have not been able to find a place to live, either here in the bigger city of Punta del Este or even anywhere nearby, like in where we live now, in Piriápolis, Punta Colorada. And she said, well, I can give you another week. I can give you until the 6th of December, but from then on, it's fully rented during the whole summer season. So we got we went looking for a place in a town not here in Punta Colorada. I mean Punta del Este. They all have puntas names because they're points that go out into the ocean, so they use the word punta. And then Punta Colorada, where we live now, is because of all the colored rocks. Beautiful, beautiful. Anyway, we ended up with talking to two different real estate people. Turned out they worked kind of together. And one day we got a phone call, and they said, you need to get here right now. You need to get here to Punta Colorada, and we'll show you a house. And you need to get here because there are 17 people waiting for this house. And if you come, you have to make that decision to take the house today. So we did, and we did. And here we are. Came immediately to Punta Colorada, and they met us here. We signed the contract, everything, man. I mean, we weren't going to let this one go. It was a brand new house. The two houses, we have a neighbor here. We used to live there. That was the first place they rented to us because it had been for sale. And the owner, who is a precious person, she decided not to sell it right away, so she rented it to us. And then in March, we moved into the house that we're in here now. They're twin houses. They're like what, townhouses sort of, where you share walls. And there are two here, and then there's a driveway with two parking lots and two more there. So here we are in an absolutely fantastic brand new place. Small, but boy, were we glad to get it. So why do I tell you this story? I mean, I about had a nervous breakdown. When you're sitting in a country and you have a dog and you're sitting in an Airbnb and there's no place to go and there's nothing to rent, I mean, that's panic. Well, part of the reason is because they handle real estate differently here. As far as we know, there is no, what do they call that? MLS? Yeah, multiple listing service. That doesn't exist here in Uruguay, as far as I know. We looked and looked. There's a company, a platform that lists everything for sale called Mercado Libre, which is free market. And Mercado Libre has lots of houses, but they didn't have any then for us to rent. And we looked every day, many, many times a day to see if we could catch one because they have published today. And so, of course, we would hit it because we already knew there was nothing in the old ones. But if there was an MLS, you would be able to find something more easily because all of the realtors would know what the other realtors have. Yeah? They do a little bit because they talk with each other or they consult with each other, but it's not the same as the MLS in the States. Now, truthfully, I don't know if Brazil has one, but I've never heard of it. I don't know if Argentina has one. I don't know if Costa Rica has one. I don't know where else has it, but I'm sharing this with you because I want you to be aware that it may not exist. And so you may have a harder time finding a place to live, a rental, if you're trying to do this on your own. Okay, so you can work. I have my notes. Real estate language is different. Okay, it's different in Sao Paulo, and it's different in here in Uruguay, and probably in every Latin American country. They're not all cooperating with each other to get houses for expats. Okay, and the you want to be sure that you check that you work with several different real estate agencies, different real estate agents, yeah, and that you check these things because the condition of the house of the property is not always as it's described. Here they use always. I think they use these everywhere, but here houses are little tiny. Lots, many houses are little tiny houses. I think they started the tiny house here in Uruguay. The tiny house deal, right? Everybody was building these little tiny homes. But I'm telling you that the wide angle lens makes it look like the house is big. Just the other day, we found one because we were thinking maybe we would move into town. And we went and looked at this house that looked so nice online. And we got there and we almost couldn't walk past each other in that house. It was so small. I'm not sure. I'm a big woman. We're both big people. And I stepped inside the shower, and if I showered in there, I would hit my arms every time I turned around. It was a small shower. One bedroom had two twin beds in it, and you had to leave them in the places they were because otherwise you couldn't get in there to make the bed. And in the master bedroom, there was a bed that took up the whole space as well. So you couldn't really do anything because there wasn't space to do it. So we kind of knew we weren't going to take it, but we just asked and we were being polite. We asked the questions, what about the internet? Oh, the internet's included. I said, "Oh, what's the speed?" "I don't know the speed. You'll have to check." So I took my phone out and I checked what the speed was. Because here, where we are right now, what did I take it yesterday or the day before? And we had 900 down and 40 up. 40 up is a little slow. But 900 down is decent. You can watch TV, you can do all sorts of stuff, 900 megabytes. And so I looked it up, and down was 1.5 and up was zero point 0.5. And I told the guy, I said, "What's going on here? I've never seen internet this slow." He says, "Oh, you're good. The internet is paid for by the owner, and you share the internet with her. So the cable runs from the houses share a wall, and she's on the other side, and so you get that." We tried to be so polite. We told the guy that will never work because we both work online, and I have a minimum that the company requires that I have. As it happens, it's 20 up and I think 100 down. But that's still slow for what I do because I do other things online too. So, my goodness sake, just be sure to check. Go look at them. Go look at them. Make no promises to yourself and don't let yourself get your hopes up real high. When the pictures were actually taken is another issue because all the things here on that I've looked at so far in the last few weeks where Google says they take the pictures, photo by Google down at the very bottom, and it says the date, and they all say 2025. No, they're not. Those were the same pictures they took in 2015. And some of the places we wanted to go look at weren't even built yet in 2015. So you could look, and what you would see is empty fields and grass and trees and dirt roads. So I'm just sharing this with you so that when you think about uh, getting a place to live, be sure you pick an off season. Do not plan to find a house in your time frame if you go during high season. Okay? So that would mean that if you're coming from the northern United States, anywhere in the cold countries, that you need to be sure to arrive in March, maybe March, April, and you can begin to look for a house that at that time. And then what you find, then what you see will be really available. It may be too small and the condition may not be what you want and you can move on. But just know that if you come here to look for a place in September, October, November, you're going to not find it what you want very easily. So that's my good word. We took quite a little while to recover from that much stress, I'll tell you. We were really stressed out. So I'm just sharing it with you because nobody said anything to us about it. Nobody said anything that they would rent the place out from under us either. And I can understand it. I mean, we weren't there. The money was, somebody had the money right then. So it's better if you come at a time that's the off season so that you're there with your money in your hand too, and that you can pay the first and last month's rent, and that you have enough money coming in that you can pass something called Porto Seguro or the other companies. There's several of them, and you have to go through and be okayed by them that the amount of money you are able to pay is enough for that rent. They do that the same way, similar, let's say similar, that they do when somebody wants to buy a house. Is your income enough to make the monthly payments on your mortgage? And that's the same thing they do here for rentals, okay? So just a heads up, okay? Just a heads up. Watch what you're doing when you're doing something with real estate in wherever you're going. Be sure you check, and hopefully they will have an MLS. That is different in Mexico because in many places, like in Ajijic or Chapala or those areas there, I'm not sure about Mexico City, but there are many places where they do have an MLS listing service. And so you'll be able to find something from many realtors because it will be listed there. But other countries do not have that. So be sure to check before you go. And then if you are going to go, go right as their high season is ending. Okay? Hey, have a good day. I'm glad you stopped by. I hope you stop by again soon. Okay? This is Linda Wilson, living abroad and loving it. Didn't turn off. Now it will.